I would like to call this meeting to order. Could we give a round of applause for the Explore Middle School students? And for Maria Stringham? That was fabulous. Are there parents in the audience? Wade? Thank you. That was lovely and delightful. Thank you for bringing that tone to our meeting. We're going to have the 7th graders from Explore Middle School lead us in the pledge, but first, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence to honor the memory of 7th grade student Abraham Fuentes Lopez, who passed away, and countless innocent lives of children and families impacted by war and violence across the globe. Nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you very much. May I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Baker,
Here.
Mrs. Greenberg,
Here.
Mrs. Christensen,
Here.
Mrs. Case,
Here.
Mr. Pantera.
Here.
Next on the agenda, approval of agenda, Dr. Bells.
Thank you, President Case. Members of the governing board, items approved by consent will not come up for discussion during the meeting, but will be approved when the agenda is adopted. This is possible since members of the governing board receive the agenda along with backup materials at least 24 hours prior to the meeting and have had time to review and consider all items. Prior to the agenda being adopted, members of the governing board may ask an item be removed from the consent agenda and brought to the floor for discussion at the appropriate place on the agenda. Any member of the audience who submitted a blue public comment card prior to the start of the meeting will be recognized to speak on that agenda item under items for approval. I'd like to offer the agenda as posted with the following exceptions. From consent, items F8 and F9 will be moved to items for approval.
Does any member of the governing board wish to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, Mr. Pantera, may I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda and recommended consent agenda items?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is governing board statements. Mr. Pantera, would you like to start tonight?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Glad you're all here today. How has my month go since the last meeting? Well, I went to the Career and College Fair at Paris Valley High School. They have these fairs all throughout our district last month. Fascinating to see all the choices students have. I was very happy that ASU was well represented there. Go Devils. And some of the career choices were interesting to me, and I thought they were so exciting. Although I felt a little nervous when I was talking to the people at the cosmetology group. I kept thinking they were, evaluating my skin tone or haircut. I wasn't sure about that. One great thing that happened personally, my wife, Michelle, did her first ever 5K trail run last month. It was a trail run, and she'd never done something like that before. It was timed. But she finished, and she even got a plaque because she came in last, and they gave her a plaque for that. They call it the Caboose Award or something like that. And she was so proud of herself. And the reason I bring it up is because I thought about it last week at our study session. We were going over our test scores and our school ratings, the A's, the B's, all those things. And I kept thinking about, well, there is a lot of growth in our district. We're doing very well. There's a lot of things to celebrate. A lot of our things are above state averages. I was very happy about that, and it reminded me of my wife because she tried something she didn't do before. She showed growth. Is she where she wants to be on every 5K she does in last place? No, she didn't want to stay there, but she's going to go forward and do better with that. Are we happy and perfect with our district right now with our scores? No, we want to always do better. But my gosh, we need to celebrate that growth, celebrate those little victories. That encourages us to do better and encourages those students when we celebrate them to do better at the things we want them to do. So I'm really happy about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Greenberg?
I did not run a 5K. So I can't, you know, say
She-
ditto
she-
to that.
She walked it. I'm sorry.
Okay, I've done. I just want to say thank everybody for being here. And in the past couple weeks, I had the honor of attending Broadway Under the Stars at Horizon High School. Everyone knows this is, one of the premier events, I believe, in our district. And once again, the performers just outdid themselves. Mrs. Christensen, congratulations. Logan was amazing. And I am so thrilled that we as a district continue to support the arts in the way that we do. Whether, we talk about STEAM or not, we have always been very strong and very supportive. And when we say arts, we mean everything from performing to fine arts to, there's new ones now with digital arts and the such. And so I want to thank Horizon for extending the invitation, thank Ms. Clue and the whole cast. And a great time was had by all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Christensen?
Good evening, everyone. I don't normally write out my comments, but today I would like to make a statement. I'd like to discuss a couple of difficult topics this evening. First, the rise of anti-Semitism in several of our communities after the recent Hamas terror attacks. To our Jewish students, teachers, and staff members, I've been praying Psalm 91 as a prayer protection for Israel and all of our Jewish community members. The second topic is protection for all our students. As many of you were aware, on Monday, October 16th, I, as a board member, was informed by the district that police were investigating a female high school chemistry student at PV High who was also an assistant basketball coach at Horizon High School for inappropriate conduct with a female student. I was informed that the teacher had not been arrested, but if she was arrested, it would suspend her fingerprint clearance card and that the media watches that pretty closely and that the district would be prepared to make a statement. The following day, I was informed that the teacher had unexpectedly passed away. It was suspected self-inflicted harm. I was told that no arrests were made, so the district would be treating this like any other staff member death in terms of communication. Later that afternoon, parents of PV High and Horizon High were informed of the teacher's passing without mentioning that she had taken her own life. There was no mention of the fact that this teacher had been questioned by Phoenix police the day before and had admitted to inappropriate behavior with at least one female student. While a generic canned email from the district mentioned the death, parents were not notified in a timely manner that an investigation was underway into the allegations of sexual misconduct. On Wednesday, October 18th, I asked the district to send out a communication urging any victims to come forward to inform the police and the district, but I was told that it was still under police investigation. On Monday, October 23rd, in an email to the superintendent and board president, I encouraged the district to do the right thing and make the public aware of the allegations. It wasn't until information was shared by parents in the district on social media that the district finally saw it fit to provide additional information to parents on Tuesday, October 24th. I'm very disappointed with the approach that was taken by the district and wanted to personally apologize to the community for how the district handled the situation. Our families deserve better. We deserve transparency and for all of our children to be protected.
Mrs. Baker?
Thank you, President Case. I don't really know what to say. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the Explorer Choir. I do echo Mrs. Christensen's concern for our Jewish families as well. My heart goes out to every single family who has any sort of ties or connections to anything that's happening in the world right now. And I just want to make sure our district is a safe and inclusive space for all of our students. So thank you.
Thank you. I also attended Broadway Under the Stars, and if you can see this word right there, it says bizarre. And I will have to say that it was bizarre. I knew very little of the music, but what they did was amazing. The dancing was phenomenal. And the singing, how you get a freshman boy to dance and sing at the same time, I will never understand. At the same time, not just one, not just the other, but at the same time. The costumes, thank you, Mrs. Laney. The costumes by a whole crew of people were amazing. Everything, and you know what was really cool? I have been to these performances where you could not hear. I remember going 20 years ago when my son's good friend was in the Horizon Choir, and they were doing numbers from Oklahoma, which I love. You could not hear them. The mic system, the sound system was so poor, you couldn't hear them. But because Horizon has been refurbished, and it was wonderful. And that young man went on to be an opera star. I mean, he was really good. He deserved to be heard for sure. All of these kids, whether they're really good or not, deserve to be heard. And it was just so exciting to be there and to be entertained. I did know some of the numbers, but it was amazing. So that was really fun to do, and it's something my husband even will go with me to. I have felt a lot of sadness for what innocent children in this world are going through, and it has just really hit my heart in many, many ways. And my whole life has been spent raising my own 7 children, helping with grandchildren and teaching them, and teaching in my home for 30 years, and teaching at church and being on the school board. My whole life has involved children. I love children. I want them to succeed. I want them to feel good about themselves. I want them to have cheerleaders from our schools, like my children had teachers at school who helped them get through difficult things. And when I see children in the world hurting, it just breaks my heart. And so I hope you remember these children and help your children to remember to be kind to everyone. And you never know what someone's going through. You never know if they lost an uncle or a grandfather or somewhere far away. I just hope we're kind and we show respect to each other. Next on the agenda is awards and recognition.
President Case, it's always a pleasure to highlight our students and staff for awards and recognitions. Mr. Droege will MC the honors tonight. So at this time, I'd like to invite the governing board down in front of the dais to join me.
Good evening, President Case, governing board members, Dr. Bales, members of cabinet, and attendees both in person and virtual. Tonight, we have 2 recognitions to share with you. This evening, we'll be inviting honorees to the front of the room for the recognition and photo, so please make your way to the front of the room when your name is called. Our first recognition is the recipient of the Paradise Valley Education Association's Recognition of Professional Standards Award for Teachers. The honoree this evening will be introduced by Mr. Josh Adkins, PVEA Vice President.
Good evening, President Case, governing board members, Dr. Bales, cabinet, and guests. I am so pleased to present the PVA Props Award this evening to my dear friend and colleague, Stacy Alejo, a behavior intervention specialist at Greenway Middle School. Stacy was nominated by her colleagues, and this is some of what they had to say. I am nominating Stacy Alejo because she is simply outstanding. She is the pulse of Greenway. To explain how helpful Stacy is truly impossible. She is everywhere, doing everything. As our behavior interventionist, she ensures that every single person on our campus is checked on and in a good place in order to be successful. She goes above and beyond to make certain that every student at Greenway is given the structure that they need to succeed. Stacy's impact is nothing less than tremendous. She works collaboratively by reaching out to teachers, students, and families to make connections that last all year and often beyond our students' time at Greenway Middle School. She is the first person to drop everything to help others. Stacy does everything with a smile on her face and a song in her heart. Literally, she can often be heard singing in the office or through the halls, something I know many of you have experienced on your visits to Greenway. Stacy values relationships above all else and works every day to build and strengthen those relationships with students, parents, administrators, and educators. She deserves so much recognition as a leader, colleague, and friend to everyone. She is the definition of a true rock star, and I am grateful to work with her and learn from her every day. She's a true team player and an example of what it looks like to be in it for the kids. I'm not sure what Greenway would do without Stacy. She is an asset to our district, and Greenway is lucky to have her. Please join me in congratulating my dear friend and colleague, Stacy Alejo.
Next is the Paradise Valley Education Support Professional of the Month Award. PVSEA Vice President, Ms. Victoria Jones, is here to make the presentation.
Good evening, President Case, Governing Board, Dr. Bales, and Cabinet. Thank you for the opportunity to recognize the outstanding ESP of the month for November, Anna Orlando Lemieux. Anna is Administrative Assistant at Fireside Elementary School. Anna has many qualities that make her an exceptional ESP and employee to the district, but I will start with how approachable she is. She is welcoming to students, parents, and staff. She is always smiling and willing to go out of her way to make others feel included. This comes in the form of going table to table during lunch to interact with students, visiting classrooms to ensure that facilities issues gets addressed, and even making rounds to fill in on playgrounds and crosswalks. If there is a need somewhere at Fireside, you can rest assured that Anna is there to try to help in any way that she can. Not only does Anna create an atmosphere at Fireside that is inviting and warm, but also makes every person feel as if they are important and have someone they can rely on no matter what may be happening. She is a constant positive presence that helps Fireside Elementary School provide the best possible environment for everyone. We proudly present Anna as a November PVSEA Employee of the Month.
And that, President Case, concludes this evening's awards and recognitions.
Next on the agenda is superintendent comments. Dr. Bells.
Thank you, President Case. In PV Schools, we engage, we inspire, and nurture students through high-quality instruction, meaningful educational opportunities, and dynamic learning experiences. And one of those experiences was highlighted in a recent visit I had to Palomino Intermediate. There, I had the opportunity to interview students in the Palomino News Club as part of the State of the District segment and our district news podcast called PV Beat. These up-and-coming journalists welcomed me into their classroom, gave me a behind-the-scenes look at their school newspaper, the Palomino News. It was a fantastic opportunity for me to witness how students are planning for and creating the publication. I also had the pleasure of interviewing their news club teacher, Ms. Nancy Frankie, who provides care, dedication, and high-quality instruction to each and every student in this Before the Bell program. Not only did I get to interview the students, but they also had the opportunity to interview me. To watch the full State of the District interview, you can visit PV Schools on our YouTube page or follow us on social media. You can also listen to the full interview by streaming our podcast through Apple or Spotify. Tonight, I'd also like to extend a shout out to our Director of Fine Arts, Maureen Minnick, and the high school band directors for putting on a marvelous marching band exhibition yesterday. Students from all over the district enjoyed the amazing field show performances for our outstanding marching band students. It was terrific. Later this month is American Education Week, which runs November 13th through the 17th. This week is a nationwide celebration of citizens who support public schools and who play a vital role in school and community partnerships. American Education Week provides a time-honored opportunity to celebrate education and to spotlight how important education is to the health and well-being of children and the nation as a whole. During this week, PV Schools will be joining millions of Americans nationwide in celebrating the great work of students, staff, and school communities. Coming up on November 13th is the annual Shadow Showcase. This event provides an enlightening opportunity for parents and prospective students who are interested in exploring all of the exciting opportunities that Shadow Mountain High School has to offer. For more information, visit shadowmountain.pvschools.net. We've also got a great event coming up at North Canyon High School on November 8th. You're invited to the Future Rattler Showcase. This event will include information about curriculum, clubs, and programs such as AVID, CTE, International Baccalaureate, and more. Find out more at northcanyon.pvschools.net. Next, one of our PV Schools strategic plan goals is to remain fiscally responsible and prioritize resources in order to serve the needs of our district and the needs of every learner. I can say with confidence that our very own Ava Caius has just done that. Ms. Caius was recently awarded the 2023 Procurement of Excellence Award from Unis Solutions. Ms. Caius was nominated for this award by her peers who feel she demonstrates significant impact and proficiency in 5 categories: procurement excellence, power user, innovation and digitization, leadership, and social procurement. Furthermore, she is the only recipient in the state of Arizona to earn this award. Eva has gone above and beyond to demonstrate her professionalism, work ethic, and a solid understanding of her responsibilities as a procurement agent. Congratulations, Eva. Would you please stand and be recognized? Eva, do you have any family with you tonight celebrating? All right. Next, we have 2 teachers who have accepted to the Arizona STEM Acceleration. Recently, Sunrise Middle School science teacher David Abrams and Pinnacle High School teacher Nathan Stump were accepted into the 2023-24 Arizona STEM Acceleration Project, a cohort at Arizona State University. During this fellowship, they will play a crucial role in advancing STEM education across Arizona and will assist other teachers who want to make an impact in the field of science, technology, engineering, and math. This top honor is awarded to educators who demonstrate knowledge, passion, and dedication in their field. Congratulations to both David and Nathan, and best of luck on this exciting endeavor representing PV Schools. David is here. Nathan, if you're here also, would you please stand? Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Join us next week, November 6th through the 10th, as we celebrate National School Psychology Week. PB Schools proudly honors the psychologists throughout the district who provide a wide range of services to support the needs of our students. Their work is critical in supporting students' learning and promoting positive and inclusive school climates. They serve on school safety and crisis teams and collaborate with families, teachers, and administrators to improve student outcomes. Their hard work allows students to thrive. Thank you to all our PV school psychologists for helping students and staff shine on many journeys of excellence. Let's give our psychologists a round of applause. Calling all high school juniors, the College and Career Services Department is offering a virtual presentation which will provide information on the many gifted opportunities offered within our state college programs. This presentation will guide our high school juniors and families through the College and Career 101 process. Join us for this presentation on November 8th at 6 p.m. For more information, visit the College and Career Services page of our pbschools.net. And lastly, with tremendous enthusiasm and pride, I wanted to highlight the fact that preliminary school letter grades were announced last Friday, I believe it was. And though we do have several appeals in the process, you can find out how your school did by visiting pbschools.net and clicking on school letter grades in the website footer. Now keep in mind, some of these grades may increase following the appeals process. And while we have many great achievements to celebrate, currently 22A schools, this evening, I want to call attention to one very unique honor, scoring 103.82%, earning the highest achieving A rating of all public and charter elementary or middle schools in the state of Arizona. Please join me in congratulating the hard work of students, staff, and community supporting the many journeys of excellence at Boulder Creek Elementary. Top honors. This is an impressive achievement, placing Boulder Creek ahead of 1,369 schools, showcasing just one of the many ways our students show excellence. And in total, I mentioned the 22 A-rated schools, many of which, along with other schools in our district, improved from prior years. Principal Gillette, would you please stand, and any of your staff members stand with you and receive our warm welcome and appreciation. And those, President Case, conclude my comments for this evening.
Thank you. Next, we had 2 items taken off the consent agenda, but next are items for approval. This one, I will read the resolution. Read the same thing. Go to the blue card. Oh, okay. Thank you. This is a consideration and adoption of a resolution regarding the recent executive director appointment process conducted by the Arizona School Boards Association Executive Board. So I had 1 blue card on this. Would Lily Grisham want to come make a comment?
They come after these items. It will be G4 and 5.
You just made those 4 and 5. When they, yeah, they just got moved. It's G1. I'm gonna read the statement after you're done.
Hi, my name is Lily Gresham, and I am concerned about the consideration and adoption of a resolution regarding the recent executive director's appointment process conducted by the Arizona School Boards Association Executive Board. I was hoping that you guys could discuss and my question is ultimately, if the executive director of the Arizona School Board Association has falsified their credentials, it definitely raises concerns about their integrity and trustworthiness. And school boards should consider not following their guidelines due to the potential lack of credibility and ethical concerns. It's important for us, for you guys, to maintain transparency and accountability in educational leadership. And since the ASBA is no longer credible, honest, professional in their operation and leadership, then maybe our district should not pay them and certainly not follow like all of these items up for discussion until there's some resolution. I mean, why would we consider following all these things if we know that they're not really respectable, they're not really professional, if they're doing what the investigation shows that that they were doing. That's all.
Okay, thank you. This is the resolution that we will be voting on. Resolution regarding the recent executive director appointment process conducted by the Arizona School Boards Association Executive Board. Whereas the Paradise Valley Unified School District, PVUSD, Governing Board, and District strive to uphold the highest standards of integrity, credibility, and professionalism in their operations, decision-making, and leadership, and to serve as a role model for students and staff in doing so. And whereas the mission of the Arizona School Boards Association, ASBA, per its bylaws, is to enhance the ability of locally elected school boards to govern effectively in service to students and communities by providing leadership, assistance, and a unified voice on behalf of public education and students. And whereas governing boards have a responsibility to foster an environment of transparency, accountability, and ethical behavior within the education community. And whereas it was recently reported that the newly appointed executive director of ASBA engaged in the falsification of his educational credentials, which represents a serious breach of trust and violation of ethical standards if true. And whereas such dishonesty brings into question the credibility and effectiveness of ASBA's leadership and undermines the integrity of ASBA. Therefore, be it resolved that the PVUSD Governing Board expresses its deep concern and disapproval regarding the appointment process of the ASBA Executive Director given the reports of false credentials, and be it further resolved that the PVUSD Governing Board calls upon the ASBA Board of Directors to fill its fiduciary obligations by commissioning a thorough and independent investigation into the appointment process and to take immediate corrective actions to rectify this situation should the reports of the false credentials be substantiated. And be it further resolved that the PVUSD Governing Board supports ASBA members who have raised concerns and stands in solidarity with other educational stakeholders in demanding that ASBA promptly address this controversy, restore public trust, and ensure that its leadership upholds the highest standards of integrity, credibility, and professionalism in service to public education and students. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Are there any comments from the board? Mrs. Christensen?
First of all, I appreciate Mrs. Gresham's comments earlier on this agenda item, and I have only been a board member since January and have not been impressed with the Arizona School Boards Association. I did attend recently, was the only member of the PVUSD governing board that attended their Maricopa County meeting, and they were making and announcing, making fun of, making disparaging remarks about the superintendent of public instruction. While we will all have different opinions on the job that Superintendent Horn is doing, I found it highly unprofessional, and in this matter, it just shows that they are more concerned with being a political biased organization rather than having the integrity that they need in order to provide Arizona school boards across the state with good policies and information. And so I appreciate Mrs. Greenberg drafting this resolution on behalf of our board, and those are all my comments.
Are there any other comments? Mr. Pantera?
Yes, I've been to many of the ASBA programs. The last one I did was the one on law, which is very useful, explaining a lot of things that, as a school board member, even a person that's teaching my whole life, I didn't realize we were, need to keep aware of. Very useful. Very much a great way to understand our role as a governing board members. I've been to like 4 or 5 events. The first one I've ever missed, matter of fact, was the county one because I was not available to go. The work they do is good work, but that's why this resolution is. We need to make sure it stays the type of organization it's been for how many years now. This has to be resolved. We need to make sure that it stays above reproach. So the things that we present and that are used from their help and resources are valid. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? No. Mrs. Baker?
Thank you, President Case. I agree with everything Mr. Pantera said. I value the training that I've gotten from ASBA. Their policy bridge, I probably look at every single day, looking up different things. And so it is a useful and needed organization. And I am glad we are taking a stance on this so that we can restore the integrity to ASBA and continue to utilize their trainings and their policies and such, because it is such an important, they play such an important role in governing board support across the state. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank Mrs. Greenberg for writing this amazing resolution. Much better than I could have, I'm sure. And I hope that it's used as an example to other school boards across the state, that we resolve to have this taken care of, and that the ASBA Board of Directors fulfill its fiduciary obligations. So they need to do what they need to do. And I, as a school board member, received a letter, and it had signatures or names of 20 former ASBA presidents saying this was wrong, what was happened, and it needs to be taken care of. So it's not as if this is a common practice, this is wrong, and they wanted the legacy of ASBA to be above board, and they need to take care of it. And as to the comments of a member of our school district, I don't equate the policies that we got from legal as the same way as other things. So I think the legal is okay for us, and it's everything that we receive is checked through and compared. We just don't accept them point blank. Did you have another comment? Did you have a comment, Ann and Mrs. Greenberg?
Well, I was going to wait until we got to first read on those, but Yes, there's different divisions in the association, and what we are going to be looking at later also are things that we are looking at because laws were changed. And so whether it came from ASBA or not, we would be dealing with these anyway. I also want to say thank you for, saying I wrote this, but I do want to say I edited this more than I wrote this. I just want to echo what folks have said. I've been involved with the School Board Association in a number of different committees, a number of different ways for a long time. What we are asking is that there is obviously a controversy. It's been reported on, and we are asking that they do the right thing and fulfill their fiduciary responsibility. And that's why there's a lot of, if substantiated types of language. And then we would all know how to move forward if it is substantiated.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor of passing this resolution, would you say aye, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. And we will sign that and get it to the proper people. Next on the agenda, Dr. Bells.
Thank you, President Case, Governing Board members, Cabinet guests, and tonight we present for consideration and approval the purchase of school buses for special education students. Ms. Berrigan will present.
Thank you, Dr. Bales and President Case and governing board members. We do have the purchase of 10 new special education buses. They come equipped to do 48 passengers, but they have half of the seats with the ability to be able to be removed, which allows us to put in 1 to 3 wheelchairs. So that leaves us being able to support usually about 25 special education students on those buses. They do come with a 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranty. And I would also add that there's the 5-camera monitoring system within, but also backup and front dash cameras, which help with the safety of our buses. The buses that we are trading in, there are 19 of them. They range from being a 2008 to 2010 vehicles. Some of them have 170,000 miles on them. Some of them have about 257,000 miles on them. So we've loved them and we're ready to pass them along. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
May I have a motion to approve the purchase from current Mojave Cooperative contract for school buses as
So-
presented?
So moved.
Any board member wishing to make a comment? Yes, Mr.
I just know my
Pantera?
van's got 190,000 miles. I would not want any of these kids being transported in my van. So I'm glad we're making this change.
We wouldn't want any kids transported in your vans either, Mr. Benter.
Any comments other than that? No, I would just like to say that I'm glad there were bids taken and that we've found the right fit and that would take some trade-in values in this. So any other comments? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is gifts and donations. Yeah, after donations is when we do the. Did you find out what this was? We appreciate all donations to our district, and I would like to mention a few, but please know that all donations are appreciated. At Desert Shadows Middle School, the Lakeland Tours LLC, World Strides donated $2,500 for substitutes at Desert Shadows Middle School. At Echo Mountain Intermediate, DeRito Partners donated $1,000 for the school store, Being Kind store. At Larkspur Elementary School, Judy Pohl donated greeting cards and envelopes worth $3,300 for school use. And at Paradise Valley High School, $1,000 was given from the Thunderbirds Foundation for girls golf. And Michael and Jennifer Farrell donated $10,900 for school use for musical instruments. Thank you. At Shadow Mountain High School, the donor, David Appleman, donated double speaker boxes and woofers and amp to the NVAA Music Technology Program worth $1,200. These with all other donations we appreciate. And may I have a motion for acceptance of gifts and donations, please?
So moved.
Any board member wishing to make a comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Now is when we come to items F8 and F9, which were moved from the consent agenda. F8 is consideration and approval of the hearing officer's recommendations on student case. And F9 is consideration and approval of hearing officer's recommendation in student case. And we had one card on this. Lily Grisham.
Hi, thank you. My question on this was, what is a hearing officer? Is it like a police officer, or is it like a approval of a hearing officer's recommendation? What was the hearing about?
Oh, what is a hearing officer?
Yeah,
Hearing officers are chosen from the community.
okay.
Oh, okay. Do you have a comment? You just want to ask a question?
Yeah, well, my comment is, I mean, it's on here for a consent agenda, and it really doesn't give me any information. What were the recommendations? How can you consider and approve recommendations if we don't even know what they are? Or who they're from, or what they're about? You don't have to give names of anything, or any students or whatever, but hypothetically speaking, I mean, what kind of recommendations are being made by these hearing officers on two separate?
There's an executive agenda which gives us
Okay.
details on it, so we know what it's about.
Because it wasn't
Yeah,
on the-
publicly it's not.
Okay. I just wanted to know what the recommendations were. I mean, was it something?
Would you like to address that, Dr. Bells?
Yeah, I am.
Let me sit down.
Okay, thanks.
President Case, governing board members, in accordance with our parent family student handbook, we make recommendations for discipline, and hearing officers, which include parents of the district, listen to cases, make recommendations to the governing board, and due to FERPA, that is protected because these are specific individual cases. And so the information is shared with the governing board, who has to make a decision. They receive all the backup material to make their decision, but it is protected under FERPA.
Thank you. So that was F and 9. Yes, may I have a motion to approve? Can I do them together? Okay, may I have a motion to approve F8?
So moved.
Any board members wishing to make a comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstention? Motion passes unanimously on F9. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any board member wishing to make a comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is call to the public. I apologize. Oh, we're going to have the video play on this.
Call to the public is about to convene. This portion of today's meeting allows the public the opportunity to address the governing board. Although state law does not require that the governing board hold a call to the public, the Paradise Valley Unified School District and its board have chosen to do so because we believe it's important to hear about concerns and issues from our community. While call to the public is not designed to be a discussion, the board is here to listen. Due to Arizona open meeting law, the governing board cannot respond to, discuss, or take any action on items brought up during this time. However, staff members may be directed to get back to you and address individual concerns. As a reminder, the point of this and every board meeting is to accomplish the business at hand, and to be able to do so in an open and collaborative way. All in attendance are expected to observe meeting rules, as well as rules of politeness and decorum, so that we may serve as an example to our students that issues can be discussed in a respectful and civil manner.
Thank you. Tonight, we will have 10 people who have submitted comment cards prior to the start of the meeting. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for remarks. As a reminder, we ask that you please direct your comments to the board. Please state your first and last name when you come to the podium. Our first speaker is Gina Griffins, followed by Lily Grisham.
Good evening, President Case, governing board members, Dr. Bales, and members of the cabinet. Thank you for your time. My name is Gina Griffiths, and you guys have heard this, so I'm sure you know I'm the proud mom of 3 kids, a graduate of PVHS, a senior at PVHS, and a 7th grader at Sunrise Middle School. We live in the district boundaries, and we love PVUSD. And I tend to come up here and talk about how grateful I am for your diversity and inclusion within the district, which is so important, and how supportive you are in LGBTQIA policy. I have a transgender daughter. She's had a wonderful educational experience, and I'm grateful for that. So as I was thinking about it tonight, thought, how many school years have I been if I separate my kids out? And one of my kids is in special ed, so he started early. So I've had like 35 at least educational years between all my kids in this district. And then I started thinking, how many teachers is that? And paras and principals and lunch people, all the staff. And I can't extrapolate what that is, because in high school, there's a lot of extra teachers, and middle school, there's so many teachers. Mr. Abrams is wonderful. I had him twice and hope that my last one gets him. So and then thinking of how many staff I've interacted with, my family's interacted with, I can probably count on one hand the number that we've been disappointed in. And I think that's pretty amazing when you think about all of the folks impacting my kids. I'm just being selfish tonight and talking about my kids, and that it's been such a positive experience so often. The teachers, the staff, the principals in this district are phenomenal. And as Mr. Pantera said earlier, we have to celebrate the good that's going on, because so much good happens in this district because of all of the teachers and staff and professionals. And I think it was Eunice Case who said kids need cheerleaders, and that's what my kids have had. That's what my transgender daughter had while she was transitioning: support and a focus on education and meeting kids where they're at. So I just wanted to say thanks. I'll come back next time and spew more facts, but thank you for that.
Excuse me, next on the is Lily Grisham, followed by Susan Winder.
Hi, my name is Lily Gresham, and again, I would like to bring up um, the ethical and credible concerns within the ASBA association. And I really like that resolution document. Thank you, Mrs. Greenberg. I thought it was fantastic, and thank you very much for everyone voting yes on that. And now what happens? I don't know. How long is that going to take? I mean, when are we going to like hear back? What are they going to do? Are they going to boot the guy out? But even so, even if they get rid of the executive director, Mr. Devin Del Palacio, for falsifying his credentials, that still leaves a big cloud over the whole association itself because because their legal counsel actually advised Mr. James Bryce to do that he had a fiduciary duty to investigate, and he did what he was supposed to do. And when the the outcome of that investigation was actually given to the ASBA, they demanded that Mr. Bryce, who was the president, resign, and which he did, as let's see, as well as 2 other board members. And he had been a board member for on ASBA for over 10 years. He did his duty to investigate, and he did disclose de Palacio's falsehoods, as was advised by ASBA legal counsel. And then ASBA demanded that Bryce sign de Palacio's employment contract even after becoming aware of these lies. So my problem is that I don't think, I mean, they've lost all credibility, and so I don't think we should actually follow their advice, or until until this investigation or resolution or whatever is completed. I mean, why would we take advice from not just one person, but from the whole organization or association that we pay 25% of, don't we? The schools pay 25% of the money for the new executive director, who makes $215,000 a year, which is a lot, So I'm just really annoyed that because all of the discussions, items for discussion are under the guidelines of the ASBA, right? I mean, I printed them all out and I looked at them, and I want to throw them in the garbage.
Next is Susan Winder, followed by Jeff Londe.
Good evening, Dr. Bales and board members. Before I make my public comment, I would like to publicly thank Sandra Christensen for having the courage to say what she did tonight. Yes, thank you. It shows us that she is here for the parents to ensure that there's transparency. And Mrs. Baker, you made the comment that you didn't know what to say. And given the look on your face at that time, it's probably good you didn't say anything. I had the pleasure last Monday in attending the social studies curriculum meeting. I was able to ask one of your assistant superintendents, I think it was superintendent, it might have been director, some questions, as well as review the rubric being used to assess the programs. I have a degree in curriculum instruction and have overseen many curriculum adoptions in various states. My concern with your process is the rubric being used. When I asked the assistant superintendent about looking at the current research on the teaching of social studies, she kind of sidestepped the question, saying, "I bet we did." This is a huge concern. When selecting a new curriculum, the first step is to look at the current research. Experts do research on subjects and come up with the best instructional strategies, as well as the outcomes that should be considered. Your teams are not doing that. There are 4 highly regarded websites for educational research: ERIC, Google Scholar, National Center for Educational Research, and academia.edu. Of course, given the new curriculum being selected, the National Council for Social Studies should also have been looked at. They have developed a set of outcomes and can be used to assess curriculum. Most importantly, the rubric being used should include each state standard with a column reflecting if that material is being considered for each state standard. Your rubric had one column for all the standards, and then you just checked it off. On top of which, the amount of time allotted for these committees to look at this material would not have allowed them to be able to even make that judgment. Unfortunately, the rubric being used doesn't reflect any of what I have shared. I recently attended a review of SUSD's new language arts curriculum K-5. Their entire rubric reflected the current research on the topic. It is the best interest of your students' learning and achievement that you adjust how you select new curriculum. I will leave you with this quote from a well-known researcher in education. Major use of tests for student and school accountability has improved education and student learning in dramatic ways. Thus, the most important step in assessing new curriculum is to ensure, not assume, not guess, that it reflects each of the state standards. Thank you.
Next, we have Jeff Landay, followed by Jennifer Ariza.
Good evening to the board and cabinet. Dr. Bales, my name, as you already said, is Jeff Landay, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I've spoken up here before. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Bales for his email of October 13th regarding the Hamas attack on Israel. It was timely, well written, with all the anti-Semitism rising in the city, state, and nation. It was appreciated. I also appreciate Mrs. Christensen's comments about the same situation. I have family living in Israel, and what they're having to go through is unimaginable to most of us in America. Unfortunately, the rest of what I have to say is not exactly so positive. I stand here really at a kind of a loss at the failure of the district to support the safety and rights of all of our students. Us concerned parents have sat here, as we've heard over and over, about the safety, mental health, and social emotional development of students in Paradise Valley District. We've heard board members and speakers call out the rights of the LGBTQ plus community as if that group deserves special protection and care instead of all the students. Now we are learning that the reputation of the district and the rights of a now deceased teacher who took her own life after being questioned about and admitting to at least one inappropriate relation with a student and possibly others seem to come before the lives of the kids affected. I say, what about the rights of these victims? What about their shattered lives and shattered hearts? Sexual abuse, especially against kids, completely devastates them, often for decades to come, if not a lifetime. I truly struggle to find words. It could have been my kid. And though I appreciate the moment of silence tonight, what about for them? I don't have answers to why our district first put out a notice to the families concerning the teacher while waiting then a week to put out a notice about the victims of her perpetrated grooming. An October 31st article in the Arizona Daily Independent details the teacher's work in getting close to students and their families likely to carry out her alleged crimes. I don't have answers to why the perpetrators seem to matter more than the victims. All I want to say is maybe you do. The conversation I had to have with my own daughter when I picked her up from school today about what to be careful of was heartbreaking. One thing is for sure, the district needs to come clean about what happened, and the administration needs to look inward regarding what matters most. And Mrs. Christensen, I appreciate your comments. Thank you for touching the issue. It surely seems priorities are terribly askew in Paradise Valley Unified School District. Thank you.
Next on the list is Jennifer Ariza, followed by Bridget O'Brien.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Ariza, and I just want to say thank you to each of you for putting the time into your positions. And I also just want to thank you for continuing to do the fine arts presentations and recognitions at each of the meetings. I want to thank you also for your professionalism and how you manage these board meetings. You definitely stand out from the crowd. I stand here tonight as a concerned parent in the Paradise Valley School District, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My concern as a parent in the district is the education and welfare of the students. As I stand here today, I want to declare that pornography should not be allowed in our schools. I am hopeful that the 2023-2024 will be the year that we as a community take a stand against approving any additional pornographic material for our schools. Our community is concerned about the increasing sexualization of our students, particularly as it's being pushed to lower and lower grades. Have any of our board members researched the effects of pornography on children? Does anyone think pornography is helping the mental health of our students? Because pornography is used to train and desensitize people and increase demand for human trafficking. I wanted to highlight this for the board and ask each of you to consider if increasing the sexualization of material is helping to protect students. I think we would all agree that the events here in our district the last couple of weeks are bearing the bad fruit of sexualizing children. As Mrs. Christensen mentioned, I'm referring to the events with the chemistry teacher at Paradise Valley High School. It is very concerning that the board was fully aware of all of the events as they unfolded, yet did not notify parents of the details until pressure from the community, which was a full week later. You made this very difficult to navigate with our students. They were the ones telling me what happened instead of me hearing it first from our district leaders. The community is very concerned that the board appeared to sit on this information for over a week. If you truly believe that what you followed was proper protocols, I want you to know that these protocols you are following are not meeting the needs of your community and should be reviewed as soon as possible to better inform parents of these types of incidents. So how does all of this tie into bringing pornographic material into our classrooms? It's that you will continue to create an environment where children can and will be taken advantage of. What if the Paradise Valley School Board was known for putting an end to pornographic material being approved in our schools? What if each of you drew a line in the sand and said no more pornographic material on your watch? I would encourage you to give this serious thought as you review material to approve this coming year and the future years that you serve. Thank you.
Bridget O'Brien, followed by Jada Lewis.
Hello, my name is Bridget O'Brien, and I'm a teacher at Campobello Elementary School. I just wanted to take a moment to share some really fun and exciting things that are happening in my classroom lately. I've been lucky enough to be part of a pilot program. We are using new technology in our classroom, the new line screens, as a replacement for the traditional projectors that we have had. The smart screen has truly improved my teaching and has changed my classroom engagement. Our learning has become interactive in new ways that I haven't been able to do before. There are so many tools within the screen. It also allows my lessons to pivot and move with what the learners need and what the learners are interested in. After just a few weeks, I've already seen so many positives, and I'm really excited to continue piloting this program for our district. I'm also excited to see if our bond passes, the new exciting things that we can bring into our classrooms, because this is just the start. So thank you for supporting students and educators' learning.
Jada Lewis, followed by Tiffany Benson.
Hello, my name is Jada Lewis, and I have two kids that go to Fireside Elementary. And seeing how safety seems like a theme tonight, I want everybody to listen closely. My message today is twofold. I'm here to ask the governing board for help and also to warn all the parents at Desert Trails Elementary School. They deserve to hear the truth and to decide if their children are safe at school right now. My son is Christian Lewis. He is 6 years old. He was born with Down syndrome, and he's nonverbal. He is fully included in the first grade classroom with a one-on-one aide. And at the beginning of the school year, he needed a substitute aide, and the school chose the site substitute from Desert Trails Elementary, Atanas Marinchev. That week of having the substitute, Christian was really off, okay? On Friday, August 11th, 2023, at about 5:30 p.m. when I had my son home for the day, I took his shirt off to give him a bath. And when I removed his shirt, he had matching bruises between his shoulders and his chest. I was absolutely horrified and heartbroken. We took him to the doctor immediately, where they confirmed that this was done by force by an adult. We made a police report as well. And then the next week was a blur. So why am I pointing my finger at Mr. Marinchev? Well, here's why. The story I got was that he did, in fact, put his hands on my son. That morning on August 11th, the school held a fire drill, and Christian was scared, so he covered his ears which he really hadn't done before. He had difficulty leaving the building. He didn't do that at all last year. He was fine. We've never needed to change his IEP to reflect the fire drill issue. And he also never came home with bruises last year. In his own words, Mr. Maranchev said he did place his hands on my son under his armpits. Okay, armpits, bruises. This is an inappropriate move, as confirmed by your Director of Special Education, Linda Taylor. This is not a method taught by the school during restraint training. Then Mr. Maranchev, he changed his story to the police and said he used his forearms. So to stick to the facts, my son was abused on Friday, August 11th in your school district. Mr. Maranchev did place his hands inappropriately on my son in the exact area of the bruises, but somehow didn't cause the bruises. So now the district is on this man's side, and the story I get is that he's a nice guy. Yeah. So my nonverbal son, who cannot tell us what happened, gets screwed over in this situation. He is the most vulnerable one in this whole community, and we're left just hanging. We get nothing. You guys get to spit in my face, and especially in my son's face. Additionally, I sent a detailed account of all these events to everybody in the board, and all I got was the email and nothing further. So this is not good enough. This man was not reprimanded whatsoever. He's still working as the music teacher, and the kids there have no idea. So I would appreciate a formal response back.
Tiffany Benson, followed by Josh Atkins.
My name is Tiffany Benson. About a month ago, I wrote an op-ed and I titled it Arizona's Top 7 Worst School Districts. Had PVUSD done what they were supposed to do, you would have made my list. You delayed notification to parents, and I'm here as a pro-parent advocate. The purpose for retaining a lawyer is for you to make public statements while investigations are happening, because the lawyer knows what can and can't be said. There was no reason for the delay. Now, I mean no disrespect to the lady that took her life. I am a survivor of someone who committed suicide, and I can personally tell you that it is a very tragic and selfish way to go. The district failed the students. So I'll tell the students what you wouldn't. Anytime that an adult does evil, as a child, it is never your fault. If you were a victim, it is not your fault. If you knew abuse was happening in this district and you didn't say anything as a student, it's still not your fault. When adults do evil things, it's not your fault. If any student in this district is thinking of taking their life, don't do it. It is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Things will get worked out. If you need a voice, that's why I'm here. If you want to remain anonymous, you want someone to make a public comment who's not afraid of the backlash, you need somewhere to blow the whistle, my name is Tiffany Benson. You can contact me by going to schoolboardwatchlist.org. This is what I do. I monitor school boards. And so I just want to put, if there are any pedophiles that remain in PVUSD, I just want to put you on notice that it will be discovered. This district needs to expedite every public records request that comes through on this issue. It's a top priority for you. You owe the students and family of this district a formal public apology. Make it to the media, make it an email, do a podcast, whatever you need to do, but you owe a formal apology for delaying that notification and silencing these students' voices. And you need to give up the pedophiles. If you know you have other people in this district that have a problem with putting their hands on students, grooming them, whatever, then you need to turn them in. You don't let them quit and take a pension and be able to apply for a job somewhere else. You report them. Pedophiles do not belong in school districts. They belong in prison.
Josh Atkins, followed by Callie Wiseman.
Good evening, President Case, Dr. Bales, board members, cabinet, and guests. My name is Josh Atkins, and I am the proud music teacher at Greenway Middle School. I just wanted to take a second to publicly thank Miss Maureen Minnick and the high school band directors of this district for putting on a wonderful marching band exhibition for my students and for the students of this district. To be able to share with my students the beauty of the marching arts and to see that as they grow up, that there's a place for them in a marching band at our schools, a place where they can make music, where they can make friends that last a lifetime. I made so many friends in my marching band in high school, which seems counterintuitive when you think about marching band, but it is a wonderful place to make and meet friends. And I am just so proud of the Fine Arts Department in this district and of our individual band directors at all the high schools for the opportunity they gave my students and many other students across this district. So thank you.
Next, Callie Weissman.
Good evening, Governing Board, President Case, Cabinet members, and Dr. Bales. My name is Callie Wiesman, and I am a second-year teacher at Greenway Middle School. And the reason I am up here today is to speak about how confident I am that nobody is more deserving of the Props Award than my own colleague, Stacey Alejo. What I have to say is not as great as what Josh said at the beginning, but I'm still going to speak. She is highly regarded on our campus and is always willing to go the extra mile to help anyone and everyone around her. While she has so many responsibilities of her own on campus, she is also constantly picking up slack wherever it is needed. She is so many people's go-to person for literally everything. When you need someone to count on, Stacey is there. When you need someone to correct behavior immediately, Stacey is there. When you need someone to provide advice, Stacey is there. The list could go on, and I know we don't have time for that. So I'm just going to say that whenever anyone needs anyone, Stacey is there. I've never seen someone as hardworking, dedicated, and as great as a leader as she is. She is someone that so many people look up to and count on at Greenway. Greenway would 100% not be the same without her. She truly makes such a positive impact on students' lives, students' families' lives, and coworkers' lives. I said it once and I'll say it again. Nobody is more deserving of this award than Stacey. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is items for discussion. Dr. Bales.
Thank you, President Case, governing board members, cabinet, and guests. And tonight we present for first reading policy revisions as a result of legislative action. Items I, 1 through 18, will be briefly summarized by members of cabinet, and then we'll be available for any questions after each policy revision. There will be no action taken tonight, just discussion as a first reading. And once again, these are the result of the legislature's actions and sine die when all of these became law. So these are compliance requirements. The first one is policy BCB, Board Member Conflict of Interest is the title. This revision only permits the district to employ any person who served as a member of the school district governing board during the preceding 2 years, only in a position in which the person will provide services directly to students. So sorry, if you've served on the board in the last 2 years, we won't be hiring you as an administrator. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this policy for reading I-1.
Are there any questions from the board on this policy? It was for all. No. Should I ask her? Mrs. Grisham, are you going to speak on each of these, or did you have an overall statement? So go ahead and come up here and you can speak on, make your comment one time on them. I know.
actually have a comment for almost 15 out of these 18, but okay. So number one, the member conflict of interest. Is that what that's about? Yeah. That's the one we're just talking about? Yes. Just a minute. No, Dr. Bales just said that, so if you're on the board, then for 2 years, you can't like, I don't know, be on the board again or something like that. What I'm reading here on the conflict of interest, it says that any board member or employee who has or whose relative has a substantial interest in any decision of the district shall make known such interest in the official records of the district and shall refrain from participating in any manner as a board member or employee in such decision. But not only that, but it says that they shall refrain from participating in any manner means more than just refraining from making a final decision or vote. It means participating in any way in the process leading up to the decision. They cannot make recommendations, give advice, or communicate in any manner with anyone involved in the decision-making process. Is that correct?
That has been a policy we've had for years.
Okay.
So we're talking about the
Revisions.
revisions. What we're doing today is the revision, and the revision is the 2-year part to be hired as an administrator.
Prohibited.
You cannot be hired as an administrator after serving on the board for 2 years.
Okay.
That's the revision. So we're not talking about the whole policy. We're just talking about the revisions.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. Okay.
Are there any board questions from the board? Mrs. Greenberg?
Yeah, it's not really a question. I just want to reiterate that these are before us because the legislature made changes to the law. The laws are now in effect, and we have to incorporate these into our policies. That's what we're dealing with here. And most of these are fairly minor.
Most of them, the first one might be the biggest change. The rest of them changed a policy by a week, or there's very little. Okay. Any other comments? No? Okay,
There's no
let's
motion on this.
go. What? Oh, okay. And then number 2, Dr. Bales?
President Case, governing board members, this next item, G2, policy BDA, it's entitled Board Organizational Meeting. The revision now permits the board to hold its annual organizational meeting anytime in January as their first meeting. Previously, it had to be completed by January 15th, and now it just allows us to have it completed at any time during January for the organizational meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Okay. Number 3.
The next item, G3, policy BE, entitled School Board Meetings. This is as well as the next couple, have specific language to address that we are required to provide an amount of seating in the board meetings sufficient to accommodate the reasonably anticipated attendance of all persons desiring to attend deliberations and proceedings when feasible. It does not require the public body to relocate a meeting outside of the largest regular meeting room that we have, particularly here at District. Additionally, the agenda for the public meeting is required to include notice of the time that the public will have physical access to this meeting place, which Ms. Chisman has been doing on every posting since August. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on those 2 slight revisions to this policy.
Are there any comments from the board? No, moving on. That was 3, 4, and 5.
Number 4, I'll take them individually by
Okay.
preface that they are all very similar. Number 4 is the Policy BEDA, the title of the policy is notification of board meetings. And like the last policy, this revision includes language about posting the time that the door is open to board meetings. That's the only revision to this policy. They're redundant. So they add it to multiple policies. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? Next, number 5.
G5 is policy BEDB. Like the previous policies, this revision includes language about posting the time the door is open as well. So same as the last one.
Okay, any questions? Next, number 6.
The next item is G5, policy CBI. This revision requires that the board and the superintendent meet to agree on an evaluation instrument prior to the start of the academic year. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Mrs. Christensen?
So the change was just that the board and the superintendent need to agree on the tool, not necessarily what the evaluation is.
That is correct.
It's just,
But the instrument's going to be used.
okay.
And I have a question. So we have a meeting in June where we go over all of that. But then our board meeting isn't always before school starts. So how does that work?
Now, as long as we agree on the instrument before the academic year starts.
Okay, just checking to
Yep.
make sure that we're following every rule. Any other comments? Number 7.
Excuse me. The next item, Dr. Holmes will present for consideration to Governing Board Policy GCG, part-time and substitute professional staff. Dr. Holmes.
Madam President, members of the board, the language recommended by ASBA already aligns with our current processes with respect to substitute teacher selection and pay, so it will not impact our current process. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Did you have a question on this? Yes.
So the revisions on this says that the board will establish the daily pay rate for substitute teachers. And then it says the superintendent will screen all applicants for substitute positions and recommend substitute teachers to the board for approval. And the superintendent will establish regulations to assure that all substitutes used in the schools are on the board-approved substitute list. So does that mean, Dr. Bales, you will screen
So-
all the applicants?
So like other places in our policy, particularly line and staff relations, and there's another one I can't recall off the top of my head, the superintendent may delegate to others serving under him or her. So that's what this, it happens at many policies across the policy book. So we delegate those in terms of, like this is it's not a curriculum. If it was curriculum, it would go over this way to the assistant superintendent for things like that. This one happens to be HR procedures and rules.
Because it could have said the appropriate person, board member, or whatever. But it's
Right,
the-
we don't
'cause I was thinking,
always
wow, that's a lot of work for you to do.
We don't always have policy that says or designee.
Yeah.
Sometimes it says that, but it doesn't always say that. But we have policy that permits that.
And my other question is, it says the board shall establish the daily pay rate for substitute teachers. How do you determine that? Does all the teachers get the same pay, or do you get more for a science teacher or less for, or is it just a standard like $100 a day for all substitute teachers on all classes, all grade levels, all subject matters?
The daily rate of pay is provided in the spring when we present to the board our compensation package for approval. There is the same rate of pay unless it's a long-term rate of pay. So they have to be in an assignment that's considered long-term to receive a higher rate of pay. So there's 2 levels of pay, I believe. Correct, Dr. Holmes?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, and let me just say this now so I don't have to come up again. It might as well be under the substitute staff development. When it comes to substitute teachers, do they have to be certified at all? Or, because it says here, board approved substitute list. So does the board approved substitute list, does that include substitutes that have a teaching certificate, have a college degree, or no?
Yeah, we have
Doesn't matter.
statutory requirements. Dr. Holmes, would you like to briefly summarize those?
The state does require that substitute teachers maintain a substitute teacher certificate, which requires that they have a degree, a 4-year college degree, and a level 1 IVP fingerprint card.
Because I thought Doug Ducey signed a thing like just a couple years ago saying that they don't have to have a 4-year college degree.
I believe that would be for an emergency certification. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from the board on number 7? Is that where we are? Thank you. Number 8.
Thank you, President Case. Ms. Copen will present for first reading consideration revisions to Governing Board Policy IGA Curriculum Development. Ms. Copen?
Yes, President Case, Governing Board, language has been added to policy IGA in accordance to state statute. The language added to this policy states that boards that authorize textbook review and selection committees are subject to open meeting law. All curriculum changes shall be approved by the governing board. Language was also added that certificated personnel have the professional obligation that will include work on curriculum committees. We recommend these language revisions, and changes are highlighted in yellow. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Greenberg.
Yes, Mrs. Coben, in the second paragraph that's been added, not all certificated personnel are classroom teachers, and I believe we do require committee participation of classroom teachers, but not necessarily all certificated personnel. Would it make more sense to change the end of that where it says, and these obligations will include, to may include work on curriculum committees? And that sort of covers the basis.
Yes, President Case, Mrs. Greenberg. Yes, I think the spirit of this statement is to promote the collaboration and just state the value that we find in our certificated people participating on these curriculum adoptions, and their perspective cannot be replaced. So I think the will was a strong statement of that we need you on these committees.
And also, I mean, working with our PVEA leadership, I think Diane is here as well. Conceptually, we're good with the language. I think we want to address some of the implementation concerns that we have, after when it comes to implementing adopted curriculum. That's a bigger challenge when it comes to time and training.
Any other questions or comments? Number 10?
Question.
Oh, you have a comment, Mrs. Christensen?
So what Mrs. Greenberg said made a lot of sense, because the way it's written is every single certified personnel will be obligated to work on curriculum committees. So is that the case? Every single one of them? Because the word will implies
Well, President
every
Case,
single one of
Mrs.
them rather
Christensen,
than may, as Mrs. Greenberg stated.
we're not certainly we're not opposed to changing the word. We have existing language with our bargaining agreement that talks about teacher participation in committees. So we always solicit, participation. We'll continue to do so as our association leaders reach out and get people to participate in curriculum or any committee in the district for that matter. And talking with our leaders, it's very difficult for all of them, no matter what group they come from, to get people to participate. Well, I mean, if there's on board interest in changing the word to may, we're not opposed to that.
I personally am interested in changing it to may, because will is almost like shall. And as we all know, when the language uses shall, it's required by law. So I support
I like the
changing
word
it
may too.
to may.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are we on number 10 now?
Yes.
Number 10?
Number 9.
Mm-hmm. The last one was subject to open meeting law. The last one you did was 9, wasn't it?
I did 8.
She
Oh,
did
you did
8. We're
8.
at number
Excuse me,
9
9.
now,
I
please.
apologize. Number 9.
So number 9, Ms. Copen will present for first reading consideration revisions to governing board policy IGD. The title of this policy is curriculum adoption. Ms. Copen?
Yes, so language has been added to policy IGD in accordance to state statute that boards that authorize textbook review and selection committees are subject to open meeting law. Additionally, we recommend the ASBA language additions for prohibited instruction, and those changes are highlighted in yellow.
Are there any comments from the board? Mrs. Grishman, did you have a comment?
Yes. It seems like to me the addition is under prohibited instruction. It says what it says, and then it says except for, it will not restrict or prohibit what it says, which totally contradicts, okay, the school district shall include in its program of instruction any courses or classes, no district shall include in its program or instruction any courses that promote the overthrow of the United States government, or promote resentment towards a race or class of people, or as are designed primarily for students of a particular ethnic group, or advocate ethnic solidarity instead of treatment of students as individuals. But then it says the following are okay. Courses or classes for Native American pupils. Okay, well, isn't that a certain race or class of people? And then another one says grouping of students according to academic performance, including capability in the English language that may result in a disparate impact by ethnicity. And then it also says courses or classes that include the history of any ethnic group that are open to all students unless the course or class is in violation of the above cited course or class restriction. So in the first part, it says you can't promote resentment towards a race or class, or you can't design primarily for students of a particular ethnic group. Well, it's completely contradictory. I mean, because there are courses and classes that include history of some ethnic groups. What about like African American clubs or Asian club or something like that? But then it says in the first part, they're prohibited from teaching that. I mean, maybe, I don't understand. It's very, no, I wouldn't say ambiguous, contradictory is what it is. So if the school district has to include, because it says shall include, and then it says, but then it's prohibited from these subjects. And then they're exactly the same thing. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, if there are clubs and classes and courses and instruction that are designed primarily for students of a particular ethnic group, but no, that's prohibited. Is it prohibited or is it okay? I don't understand. I mean, this is all added verbiage that makes it not very clear at all. So could somebody explain that one to me?
Are you finished?
Thank you.
Thank you. President Case, governing board members. The speaker also forgot to include that some of these, not to be construed to restrict or prohibit, are to comply with federal law. And it also includes instruction about the Holocaust or any instance of genocide. So there's very specific exceptions, and all of this is out of state statute. So whether we put it here in policy or not, we have to comply with state statute. So,
Are there any comments from the board? Mrs. Greenberg.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Dr. Bales said, because he and I did discuss this earlier. I mean, this is literally taken from state statute. So if there is a question, I would suggest going to your state legislator and perhaps getting clarification. Perhaps looking at the vote on these particular bills. I don't have the numbers, but I'm sure we could find them. To determine what the thinking was. Because yes, some of it does appear to be contradictory, but this is what is in state statute, and we have to follow state statute.
Any other comments on 9, Mrs. Christensen?
Prior to second reading, can we get the links to work? Because I was trying to look at state statute because they're at the bottom and at least the first one did not work, but it is a bit ambiguous. So I thank the speaker for bringing this up, and I will, I'm going to look at this for, because I read through it, I think it's, contradictory as well, but, I will review statute, and it would be helpful to have those links in there to be working properly. So we can reference them.
Okay,
I think it's,
Mrs. Greenberg?
I think it's 721 and 722 that are the specific ones. I think 111 and 112 are older links, but I think if you look at the bottom ones, those are the newer ones.
Did you get that, or do you need her to repeat it?
I think the ones at the bottom are the newer ones. Yeah.
We good? Okay, number 10.
Thank you, President Case. Ms. Copeland will present for first reading consideration revisions to policy IJJ. This is textbook and supplementary. Ms. Copeland.
Yes, language has been added to policy IJJ in accordance to state statute. The boards that authorize textbook review and selection committees are subject to open meeting law.
And I would just remind the governing board and members of the audience that we have been compliant with open meeting law on curriculum-related committees for the last 2 years.
Are there any comments from the board? Okay, number 11.
Thank you, President Case. Ms. Copeland will present for first reading revisions to governing board policy IHA. This is basic instructional program. Ms. Copeland.
Language has been added to policy IHA per House Bill 2060 and state statute that adds a literacy coach or literacy specialist at each school to the list of employees that may satisfy the dyslexia training requirements at each K-3 school in the district. Be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any comments from the board? I like this addition because I think some people have a better ability to help kids than others. And I'm glad they've included more people. I think that's a very wise thing because some people just have a natural gift for it. So I like that. Any other comments? We're on 12.
Thank you, President Case. Ms. Copeland will present for first reading consideration revisions to policy JFABDA. The title of this policy is Admission of Students in Foster Care. Ms. Copeland.
Yes, so policy JFABDA, there are minor revisions for language cleanup. We are recommending these language revisions. Changes are highlighted in yellow and the additions are bold and italicized in the policy.
Are any other comments? I'd just say that it used to be 10 days, but now it's 5 days. And I always think the speed with which we do things for children is better. Any other comments? Number, it's 13.
Thank you, President Case. Dr. Corson will present for first reading revisions to policy EBC regarding emergencies.
Good evening. This update adds language to our existing policy requiring school emergency response plans to address how emergency responders will provide assistance to students with disabilities. Our emergency response planning already provides provisions for supporting students with disabilities, so our policy will now be current with our practice. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any comments or questions from the board? Okay, number 13, no, that was 13, so 14.
Thank you, President Case. Governing board members, Dr. Corson will present for consideration revisions to policy JK, student discipline. Dr. Corson.
This update includes language. The statutory requirements that must be met in order to suspend or expel a student in kindergarten through fourth grade do not apply to an expulsion required due to a student bringing a firearm to school or to a suspension for 2 or fewer days when the aggregate suspensions for the student do not exceed 10 days within the school year.
Are there any questions comments from the board? Seeing none. Number 14.
Number
That was
15. Yes.
15, excuse me.
Thank you, President Case. Dr. Corson will present for first reading consideration revisions to policy JKD, student suspension. Dr. Corson.
So the same language that was added to policy JK regarding suspensions of K-4 students is also added to this policy JKD.
Okay, number 16.
Also, revisions to policy JKE, expulsion of students. Dr. Corson.
Again, the same language regarding the suspension of K-4 students has also been added to this policy.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none. Number 17.
Thank you, President Case. Dr. Corson will present for first reading consideration revisions to governing board policy JLH. The title of it is Missing Students. Dr. Corson.
Statutory requirements increases the window to request records from a transferring student's prior school from 5 to 10 days.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none. The next one is 18.
Thank you, President Case. Dr. Jarris will present for first reading consideration revisions to policy JLCD, medicines and administering medicines to students. Dr. Jarris.
Thank you. I bring to you proposed revisions to Governing Board Policy JLCD. These policy changes are reflective of current state statute and our current practices. The lead nurses have reviewed these changes and support the new language. I will note that in the copy that was given to the governing board, there was a question proposed, or a question came up regarding the removal of the word guardian as it pertains to providing the nurse with medication permissions. And that removal of that word was an oversight in this presentation to you. So when the policy is brought forward for final approval, guardians will be included in with parents in that policy.
Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Mrs. Grissom.
That was actually my first question is why does it just say parent? It doesn't say, not guardian, it should say legal guardian. And first sentence on the revisions, why does it say the district will cooperate with healthcare practitioner, MD, DO, NP, or podiatrist? Well, what's a foot doctor got to do with it? I mean, does that need to be in there? Podiatrist? Maybe they meant to say pediatrician, or I don't know. I mean, what? Are these the only MD, DO, NP, or podiatrist? I mean, they took out family physician, which would pretty much cover everything. So that was a concern. Also, the prescribing healthcare, let's see. It says there must be a written permission from the parent. Well, we're gonna include legal guardian in there. They took out an awful lot of stuff. I mean, most of this has been crossed out. Students are entitled to possess and self-administer medications under the following limited circumstances. Is that added? I didn't know that was allowed. Handheld inhalers. Students may possess and self-administer prescription medication for breathing disorders in handheld inhaler devices if prescribed by a healthcare professional. And the student's name must be on it. Yeah, okay. Everything has pretty much been crossed out except for, let's see what's added. Auto-injectable epinephrine. Does the governing board, do any of our schools have any auto-injectable epinephrine? And it says, oh, you know what my other question was? It says here that it should be given by the school. Let's see, where does it say? A trained school employee or a trained nurse under contract may administer or assist in the administration of an inhaler. whom the individual believes in good faith. Okay, well, do we have any trained school employees? Who are they referring to? I mean, who's a trained school employee? Do we have any auto-injectable epinephrine in stock? It says the superintendent shall designate at least 2 school personnel for each school site who shall be required to receive annual training in the proper administration of auto-injectable epinephrine. Is that, I mean, who does that? And then it also says the superintendent shall create procedures to administer seizure management plans for students diagnosed with seizure disorders. And then it also says the district shall verify and accept students' seizure management plans developed by the students' parents and physicians. And this is a lot of stuff. And
Thank you. Do any members of the board wish to make a comment?
President Case, governing board members, just like to provide clarification. We do have 2 designated employees, our school nurses, as well as the backup, which many times is like a record secretary, receive annual training for anaphylactic shock, emergency EpiPens. And so we work closely with healthcare providers, our lead nurses and school nurses at all our sites to develop the procedures to comply with state statute and protect our kids from emergencies such as anaphylaxis shock, handheld inhalers to help them in emergency cases. So, and diabetes management. These are very serious situations we have with kids across the district. And so these management plans are updated regularly and annually with our close collaboration through our nurses, lead nurses, healthcare providers, and family input. That's how these plans are developed.
Thank you. Mr. Pantura?
Yes, Dr. Bales, I think I asked you about this last time, but I wasn't very specific when we talked about this item. But we talked about training on anaphylactic shock. And if we like to have auto-injectable epinephrine, the superintendent shall require all school site personnel to receive an annual training. So that's what I'm referring to as, that means everybody on campus where that auto-injectable is has to have that training every year. So would that be something like we do with bloodborne pathogens, or is it more specific than that?
Yeah, I believe Dr. Jarris can help us answer that question. The training, I think, is specific around the management plan and the students that they interact with staff, correct?
We do. We provide very specific training for employees who are in direct contact with a student who will possibly need a EpiPen as part of their plan. That would include any chaperones who attend a field trip with students as well. But our nurses also provide general training to all staff members at the beginning of the school year on all of these topics.
So that one says all staff at the schools. That's all the staff, everybody.
Correct.
Okay, and I'm sorry I wasn't very specific last time I asked you, but I finally got to it. Thank you for that answer. Appreciate it.
Any, Mrs. Greenberg?
Yeah, I just, I know, again, these changes are coming because of changes in state statute for the most part. I'd also like to say, Paradise Valley, I believe is, I won't say the word unique because that would mean the only one, but we are among, I believe, few school districts who actually have nurses in all of our schools. And so we are very fortunate that we do, and we have, supported that so that many of these issues, we have a trained healthcare professional on site dealing with these. But, when the law is made or ASBA makes recommendations, it's going to go out to all member districts, and they may not have healthcare professionals on staff. So some of the language also has to take care of the fact that the record secretary, in a school, up in the reservation may be the only person who can provide some of these services. So I think it makes sense, though, to keep that language in, because who knows when it may apply if the nurse is off campus one day, that type of thing. But I appreciate that we go through this. I appreciate that our nursing staff also goes through this, and that we have it. And I did look, again, we're mirroring what has changed in the law. Some of and I will tell you, some statute says guardian and some of the statute says legal guardian. So there's discrepancies there. But I'm glad that we are changing what we need to change.
Yes, Mr. Christensen?
At the bottom of page 3, under, let's see, naloxone hydrochloride, which also known as Narcan, there was language that was crossed out, administration of opioid antagonists exemption from civil liability definition, which in part states the following, and then it falls off. Was there more language that was removed there? Because then it goes into seizure management. It just looks like there was more that was excluded because it's left a fragment of a statement there. I'm just curious, what else was removed?
I will have to revisit what that looked like, but if you skip down to the bottom, from what I'm able to read here, it still doesn't make complete sense, but if you read down to the bottom where those sections are crossed out, A, B, and C, I believe that those are connected to that. I think they added the new section in between the two crossed out parts. But I will confirm that for our next presentation.
Okay, and then just a question about the Narcans. It's my understanding that every high school has them. Does every school have them, since now we do have an opioid epidemic and maybe some younger kids might need them? Do you know?
I unfortunately don't remember off the top of my head if we provided them to all schools or the initial conversation was high school, but I'm not sure if we ended up in the direction of all schools.
Yeah, I think that we were working on a grant earlier to pay for them for all schools. We can confirm that in the next board update, but I'm pretty sure that that's what we ended up supplying. And now that it's over the counter too.
I have a comment that I appreciate the fact that we have nurses on site that can train the teachers that have a child who's, for instance, allergic to bees. So they have an EpiPen and they teach them how to use it, because when you need an EpiPen, you need it immediately and you don't need to wait around for it. So I'm grateful that we have nurses to help train whoever is associated with a child who needs medical care in a certain way. So that's my comment on that. Are there any other comments? And this was the first reading. Before we adjourn, I would like to remind you that the next regular board meeting will be held on Thursday, November 16th at 6:30 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously.